I went down a number of years ago, 5 years ago now, 6 years ago now, to Greenville, Alabama. And when I was down in Greenville, Alabama, I heard all sorts of great blues music. But I also saw how some of the Deep South has not changed. Greenville, Alabama, for instance, still has the black department store and the white department store. And when I walked into the black department store, because there was a sign there that said local CDs and cassettes available. And that was 6 years ago, right? Local CDs and cassettes available, blues, jazz, hip-hop, R&B. I thought, I gotta go find out what this is about. When I walked in there, I'll tell you, the women looking after the counter, they got really nervous. And one woman came out from the back, and I'm pretty darn sure she had a gun with her. And they wanted to know what me and my friend were doing walking into that store. So it shows you how often anybody, any white person walks into the store. Well, then I started looking over the music, and I said, oh, Kenny Blues Boss Wayne. You got Kenny Blues Boss Wayne here. And then she said, how the hell do you know Kenny Blues Boss Wayne? And I said, well, I play music with him. I play every May with him out in the West Coast. And she looked at me kind of funny, and I looked through the things, and I found a few other people who I played music with. And she just thought that was the strangest thing. Well, later on that day, there was a sort of a flea market thing going on. There was a blues festival going on, and then there was this kind of flea market thing going on. And I went to the flea market, and somebody that I met there had introduced me to this couple. And here's this old couple, and he said, tell this guy about who played your wedding. And he said, oh, well, when we were growing up, little Hiram Williams lived just down the road from us. And he had a band that sounded pretty good, and we asked him would he play at our wedding when we got married. We got married quite young, and we asked him would he play at our wedding. And he did, and 6 months later, he had changed his name to, his name was known as Hank, and Hank Williams was touring the whole country as the most famous country and western artist of the time. And they said, but if you think that story is something, so I'm thinking Hank Williams and his band played their wedding. There's the father of country music. I think that's pretty incredible. And then they say, you think that's something, you should talk to this lady over here. And here's this little old lady over there, and I go over to talk to her, and she said, well, when I was a kid, we lived in the big White House downtown, and we had a nice white picket fence, and I considered myself much superior to people like the Williamses. But my mother would say, that little boy's so skinny, you're going to have to bring him a sandwich. And she would take the candle out and melt the wax onto the newspaper and take her iron out and iron up some wax paper, right? And then she would make some sandwiches, put it in the wax paper, fold them up, and make this young girl carry them down to the white picket fence in the front to hand them over the rail as little Hiram Williams was on his way to his guitar lesson on Saturday mornings. Now, the thing that I found out that day that I thought was very interesting was young Hank Williams was going to take his guitar lessons from the African American down there in the southern states who lived down the road from him. So how did Hank Williams, the father of country music, learn how to play music? He learned how to play music from an African American in the southern United States. And he wrote songs like, I got in last night about 10:30, and that old lady of mine wouldn't let me in. Move it on over and rock it on over. Move over, little dog, 'cause big old dog's moving in. Well, she told me not to go fool around, but I done let that deal go down. Move it on over and rock it on over. Move over, little dog, the big old dog's moving in. You know where this is going, right? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, and 4. Then it changes on 5 and goes back on the 7. And it's off to 9, 10, 11, and 12, and starts again. So the king of country music, the father of country music, was playing 12-bar blues songs, writing 12-bar blues songs, and why wouldn't he, right? He learned from an African American down the road, down there in the southern United States, Greenville, Alabama.